If the craft does not take up the possibilities offered by science and art, it will just be a picturesque, nostalgic show for some tourists. And that's not what I want for the craft.
I'm Maya and I'm the museum director of the Glass Factory. I've been associated with the museum 10 years. It was all in ruins, you know, the Kingdom of Crystal is going through a kind of a change, of course, because the industry is changing and disappearing. So we had to start anew. So the municipality bought the glass collection of Orrefors Kusterboda, which is our core, and then they wanted to start a museum that should finance itself, by itself almost. So that was the big challenge we had.
So we are in Boda, in the Kingdom of Crystal, in the lowlands of Sweden. And we're here because glass is ever more being made remotely, and we have set up a project that connects through live streaming artists and makers who work in glass with the science and medical research world. In medical and scientific research, you need some creatives there. You need people who understand process and materials and the applications of those materials and what's possible. With new digital crafts, we can really look towards building up a future of glass making.
Hello, I'm Shelley James and I'm an artist and I'm working with Professor Brian Sutton and the team here at the Glass Factory on this amazing project called Glass Hack.
So what we're trying to do is to create something which has both the organic quality that hot glass brings, but also is regular enough to pack into an array which suggests the way that these hair cells are packed in the ear. So working with some wonderful young people who work in the Fab Lab normally, what I've done is ask them to create moulds and models which allow us to create perfectly regular arrays of hair cells. So we're blowing stringers and then pressing them through here and then adding that to the end of the cell, and you'll see us making some of those.
So I'm trying to bring the microscope in the home, because I mean we all remember when we were small and had a microscope at home and just looked through it and were super fascinated by all the structures underneath. But it is what it is. It's usually, when you have it as a kid, plastic, or when you're working with it as a professional, it's metal and super heavy. But I actually want to bring it to the home and project the image to the wall, basically like an image. So and while it's off, it should look like a nice home accessory, and that's why glass is a perfect match with the lenses, with the light underneath. Now I'm making the outsides, basically, like what you will see when it's off and on, and then all the inside, the technical stuff will be solved afterwards.
And our initial idea was, let's get the scientists to come and work with the artists in the hot shop. But then we realised that actually this is very difficult. Everyone has very little time. It's a way to travel here. Then we decided that the best way to facilitate that is to live stream between the scientists and the makers. And we just thought this was a very progressive idea. They can see what's being made They can make the alteration in the moment. And then it really allows us to build on this relationship. We can build a language, a common language. We have a deeper understanding of what they do, and they have a deeper understanding of what's possible in glass.
Brian and I spent some time calculating the wavelength of audible frequencies that are going to be passing through water. And so we asked the team here to create some boards with nails poked through them, spaced at a particular frequency, which is likely to create these secondary wave effects that we're interested in, these constructive and destructive interference patterns. I think the technology has its glitches, but we're in the very early stages, and I think we're pushing at the edges of what it can do. So one of the problems has been the delay, and so we're not really talking in real time, but that's because of the number of staging posts that are happening in the signal. And I think over time we're going to get closer and closer to a real live conversation. To create something which was actually designed to break was kind of intriguing and great fun, and slightly scary for the people around me, because in the final performance we set up the hair cells and made them jiggle to the point where they all broke. And that was great fun. And what was really fascinating was the audience response to that performance, because in the past I've often worked with individual objects, but this suddenly became something quite different, and that was very exciting.
So it's different parts. It's the workshops and the live making. It's the trying out, of course, and it's also the lectures. So we have we had Jane Cook, Dr. Jane Cook from Corning, who gave a fantastic lecture about Corning and the residencies, the new ordered residencies they have since 2014. We had Jerry Laughlin from the Material Library. That was fantastic. All the artists loved it, because that was like the foundation for everything we do. And she went in with her whole body. We have John's fantastic lecture, Human Geography, and how he connected to the artists in such a way, so they came to him and thanked him for changing their lives. So we have all these beautiful lectures. Matthias Rang and Nora Löbe talking about color from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's color teachings from the 18th century. So their point of departure is really historical, and working with that in class. Of course, Shelley James talking. So the lectures were fantastic, and I would say life-changing actually, because things that have never been done in Sweden. And so we have also a lot of young people in the hot shop, as you can see, which is good, who really enjoy it, and they hang out for 3 days every day, 8-9 hours, to just sit there and watch.
Yes, I'm Jane Cook, Dr. Jane Cook. I'm the chief scientist at the Corning Museum of Glass. Glass can be very different from place to place. We think about glass as being this sort of ubiquitous thing that it must all be roughly the same because it's all doing roughly the same thing in the world. But in the reality, very subtle differences in the way that it's been put together, the formulas, the recipes, and then the furnaces that it's melted in lend a certain different qualities to it that are important when you're working it by hand or by machine. Philosophically, that's how glass works. You learn very early as a glass engineer and as a glass artist that glass is willful. It has things that it wants to do and does very well. And the way that you learn how to work it is learn how to work with it. And so when creators embrace the idea that there's going to be failure and trial and experimentation, what comes out ultimately is going to be much richer, better directed, a fuller experience and a longer lasting experience. So I think there's a wonderful meta synergy going on here, that they're coming up with a way to explore with glass, but they're actually applying methodologies, philosophies that are in themselves the type of exploratory things that you would want to do with any material. I love that. Coming to I mean, the heart of the Crystal Kingdom, coming to this place where so much beautiful glass has been made for centuries, and seeing it in such a derelict state, it's very sad. We're staying in a hostel in a renovated schoolhouse where there are no children. Walking a 5-minute walk each day over to the factory, to the museum space, past houses that haven't been occupied for decades, overgrown. And then you come into this space and it's vibrant, it's alive, but the sadness is tempered, I think, by the passion of the people here at the glass factory that they clearly believe in glass.
I'm Peter Geschenke. I'm a German glassblower who learned his trade in both Sweden and Italy and has traveled in Europe educating, developing glass craft for about the last 20 years. My role in the factory is both to be a glass blower in all the projects we run, but also the creative leader, the art director of the place. There's always a challenge in just understanding the idea of an artist, a scientist who wants you to make a product. That's the real challenge. And then, of course, there's always these small challenges. Can I get the bowl to have 9 perfect spikes in between? And what type of tool do I need? And the whole process, until you understand that's the way to do it, is what is really interesting and challenging at the same time. But I like challenges. Fantastic to have this modern type of double communication. But always, in the end, it's a big difference to have somebody in person in front of you. And that's what has been really nice. I mean, we both have had contact through the internet, but we have had the persons to come here and the people involved to be not only in a working situation, but also meeting each other and talking about private things.
The really good thing that we all love about this place, because this is about placemaking, is that it's in the middle of the forest. Originally started, you know, as a glass factory in 1864 as Bode Glass Works, situated in the middle of pretty much nowhere with all the trees. It's an integral part of what we are, you know, this place. And we call it our little Twin Peaks, actually. Because this is why all the glass houses started, because of the trees, you know, because of the wood for the furnaces, and it still shapes us very much today, you know. So.
My name is John Sunderland. I'm a landscape specialist. My background is in archaeology, and it's also in art. I came to undertake an artist's residency, and my idea was to look at the abandoned buildings around Bode in the context of the end of industrial glass production. And what kind of signs are there of the past activities in these buildings? What do they tell us about Bode? I was fascinated, really, but I didn't know quite what I was letting myself in for, really. When I came here first, I was fascinated by the forest. I walked around the forest and I got this sense of darkness in the forest. And I felt there was some sort of correlation in myself with that kind of darkness. So in a way, the abandoned buildings seem to be a very appropriate fix for that, because the abandoned buildings are something material. They're material culture that I could actually investigate, that I could get into, something that was concrete rather than an abstract idea. Somewhere where I knew you were going to get signs of change. And the stove has been ripped out. Kind of interesting. There's this sort of a couple of pills on the stove. Strange. Fireplace is gone. But the upstairs has another place. You get this sort of, it's more private space than the downstairs of the building. It's where people slept, it's where they had sex, it's where they gave birth even. But this, in here I found a newspaper. The newspaper was from 1971, and it was a Greek newspaper. I thought, well, that's really interesting, because I think it does indicate that, and back up the information that I gather, that there were, in the 1970s, there were quite a lot of Greek glass workers coming and working in Bode. So it's very possible that a Greek family lived in this building. There, I just in Skadanga. Oh yes, July 1919. I think there's this sense of hiatus, a sense of vulnerability and uncertainty about the future of a place like this, like many places that go through this change from a large-scale industrial production to something else. And what that something else is always brings with it a sense of unease about the future. So these places, not only are they buildings, but they're also a society. And then the society is going to change. People will move away and other people will move in.
Je suis Jonas Delay, artiste plasticien, j'habite en France. C'est toujours intéressant de pouvoir accéder à des espaces comme ça qui nous sont pas forcément familiers. Ici c'est le verre, moi je suis artiste plasticien, donc pas forcément souffleur de verre. Donc forcément d'avoir la possibilité d'accéder à une technique et à un mode de pensée différent avec une matière particulière, c'est toujours intéressant, même si ça peut troubler la manière dont on a de faire les choses ou de penser les projets. Mais c'est vraiment l'idée d'une collaboration pour amener à la finalité de la pièce qui est assez intéressante. On peut considérer le verre comme étant une matière qui est ancestrale, dont les pratiques sont millénaires, etc. Et c'est vrai qu'on voit on voit encore dans l'industrie un changement radical où finalement on était dans l'idée de la production, et ici cette usine, cette factory parle aussi sans doute de cette histoire, d'une forme de mutation. Et je pense que d'une certaine manière c'est un bon exemple ici de renouvellement et de voir comment le verre peut évoluer dans le futur, parce qu'ils ont su d'une certaine manière retrouver un espace de production et de recherche, et en passant par justement cette idée de la collaboration avec des artistes, avec des scientifiques, avec des designers, et finalement d'allier une forme de production avec une forme de recherche et de bienveillance pour justement être au service à la fois du verre et aussi des idées qui peuvent être développées dans ce matériau.
This has been the most amazing opportunity to develop my research in conversation with scientists, and to be here with such an extraordinary, supportive and talented team, both in the hot shop and the support really behind the scenes to both make sure that we're welcome and comfortable, but also that all the technology works. I know that the scientists have really relished the chance to see how their ideas can be expressed through glass and to learn some new things themselves from that. Both Andrea Straight and Brian Sutton have both been amazed and delighted and impressed by what can be done when we all work together in this way. And Andrea was able to come, but Brian has been working at a distance, and I think he's got a lot out of it, and I think we both learnt a lot, and we're looking forward to developing our ideas together more.
In my visionary idea, this is the place in Sweden where intangible cultural heritage, which is nothing else than living persons who execute craft, really come together, save the craft by developing it in a modern world.
People say, are you worried about glass? Are you worried about what's happening with glass? I never worry about glass because we really don't fully understand it as a material, and there's so much potential with the material, and we're making new discoveries. Glass that was discovered 20, 30 years ago is now becoming more and more relevant. So it's just showing and demonstrating what's possible. How can we link together all over the world? The internet allows us, and live streaming allows us to do that. And let's just try and find ways where we can be facilitators. I think artists can be great facilitators.